In the long story of archaeology, many moments glitter in memory. The cracking of the Rosetta Stone's code, the unsealing of forgotten pyramids. But none surpasses a simple, trembling moment in the dark, a single candle held to a breach no larger than a coin. And now, over a century later, the echoes of that moment have resurfaced. Just this past month, Egypt celebrated the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum, a sprawling beacon of history standing in the shadow of the Giza pyramids. For the first time, nearly the entire funerary collection of Tutankhamun, every amulet, every golden ornament, every fragment of his story, has been brought together under one roof, displayed not in darkness, but in the clarity of modern light. But to truly understand why these treasures matter, we must go back to the very instant they were discovered. The date, November 26, 1922. The place, the Valley of the Kings, silent, wind-carved, watched over by the cliffs of Thebes. A group of men huddle around a newly exposed doorway. The air is thick with dust, sweat, expectation. Lord Carnarvon, grasping for composure, finally asks the question that has burned a hole in their chests. "Can you see anything?" Howard Carter's reply is barely more than breath. "Yes, wonderful things." They had found a sealed royal tomb, an untouched treasury of a pharaoh dead for over 3 millennia. A king nearly erased from history. A king we now call Tutankhamun. But Tutankhamun's story is not simply one of gold. It is the story of a fragile boy born into revolution, of a dynasty tearing itself apart, and of a burial so small and hurried that it survived untouched, while every greater tomb around it fell to ruin. To understand Tutankhamun, we must step back into the storm of his lineage. His father was the most radical ruler ever to sit upon Egypt's throne, Akhenaten, the so-called heretic king. During his reign, Akhenaten dismantled the religious world that had anchored Egypt for 2,000 years. He shut down the temples, weakened the priesthood of Amun, and elevated a single deity, the Aten, the radiant sun disk. This religious revolution fractured Egyptian society, destabilized government institutions, and alienated the elite. The child born into this upheaval was named Tut-Ankh-Aten, living image of the Aten. When he came to the throne at only 9 years old, the country was spiritually exhausted and politically unstable. His advisors, the Vizier I and the General Horemheb, acted decisively. They restored the old gods, reopened the temples, and reversed the Amarna revolution. The boy king's name was formally changed to Tutankhamun, the living image of Amun. Modern DNA analysis reveals that Tutankhamun's parents were closely related, most likely full siblings. As we now understand, this inbreeding had grave consequences. CT scans and genetic tests indicate a congenital clubfoot, avascular necrosis affecting the bones of his foot, a weakened immune system, numerous skeletal issues requiring constant support. Inside his tomb, archaeologists found over 130 walking sticks, clear evidence that this teenage pharaoh likely walked with difficulty and pain. Tutankhamun died around age 19. The cause was not murder, nor a chariot crash, theories once popular. Modern medical imaging shows an unhealed fracture in his left leg, likely accidental. DNA analysis also revealed his body carried the parasite responsible for malaria tropica, a severe and often fatal strain. The combination of his leg injury, systemic weakness, and malaria likely proved fatal. His widow, Ankhesenamun, was left alone, and 2 tiny mummified daughters were buried with him. His tomb was unfinished, so officials hurriedly repurposed a small tomb likely built for a non-royal individual. In the years that followed, Egypt's rulers sought to distance themselves from the Amarna era. Tutankhamun's name was omitted from official king lists, and his memory quietly allowed to fade. He became, quite literally, the Forgotten Pharaoh. Fast forward over 3,000 years. By the early 20th century, the Valley of the Kings had been picked clean. Most believed no royal tomb remained undiscovered. One man disagreed. Howard Carter, stubborn, meticulous, unshakably convinced, believed a missing tomb remained. For 5 long seasons he searched under the patronage of Lord Carnarvon. The labor was backbreaking. The evidence was scant. The budget was crumbling. By 1922, Carnarvon gave Carter one final season. One last chance. Carter focused on a small, overlooked patch near the tomb of Ramses VI, a location dismissed by previous excavators. On November 4th, a workman uncovering debris struck carved rock. A step, then another. A full staircase descending into the earth. A sealed doorway emerged, stamped with the necropolis seal. For the first time in centuries, a pharaoh's tomb lay untouched. Carter reburied the steps to protect the find. He telegraphed Carnarvon the now legendary message. At last have made wonderful discovery in valley. A magnificent tomb with seals intact. 22 days later, Carnarvon arrived. On November 26th, Carter made a small breach in the second doorway and lifted a candle toward the darkness. The light flickered, revealing gold. Everywhere, the room was overflowing. 5,398 objects in total. Chariots, thrones, chests, walking sticks, food offerings, ritual statues. Even golden sandals bearing images of Egypt's enemies, so the king could symbolically crush them in the afterlife. The tomb had been entered by ancient thieves twice shortly after burial, but officials resealed it quickly. No major items were taken. What Carter found was the only largely intact royal burial from ancient Egypt. The excavation took 10 painstaking years. Every object was conserved, drawn, photographed by Harry Burton, and cataloged before removal. Inside the burial chamber stood 4 nested gilded shrines. Within them, 3 coffins, the innermost made of solid gold. And over the mummy's face, serene, youthful, eternally preserved, lay the masterpiece now known around the world, the gold mask of Tutankhamun. The world erupted in fascination. But in early 1923, tragedy struck. Lord Carnarvon died of an infected mosquito bite. Lacking access to the excavation, sensationalist newspapers invented the infamous curse of the Pharaohs, linking Carnarvon's death to supernatural vengeance. No evidence ever supported this. Yet the myth only amplified Tutankhamun's fame. The real mystery, Tutankhamun's death, remained unsolved for decades. Was it murder? A blow to the head? A chariot wreck? Modern CT scans and DNA sequencing, performed in the 21st century, finally provided clarity. Tutankhamun carried multiple genetic disorders linked to close inbreeding. The ultimate irony is that Tutankhamun was a minor pharaoh. His reign was brief. His tomb was small. His memory intentionally faded. And yet, that very obscurity protected him. His modest, hurried burial survived untouched while the grand tombs around him were stripped bare. As a result, modern science gained an unprecedented window into the life, death, and world of an 18th dynasty king. Tutankhamun did not reshape Egypt through conquest or decree, but in death, through chance, circumstance, and a forgotten tomb, he reshaped history. King Tutankhamun truly rewrote the past and became immortal. Perhaps our fascination endures because Tutankhamun is more than a pharaoh. He is a mirror. His tomb offers us a rare, intact window into ancient Egypt, a perfectly preserved chapter of human history, frozen in gold and resin. His youth and tragic fragility touch something emotional in us, the promise of a life cut short. And then there is the mystery, unresolved questions of lineage, disease, death, and political intrigue that still defy absolute certainty. His rediscovery was not just archaeology, it was a resurrection. Howard Carter called it a triumph. Today has been a great day in the history of archaeology. But this November 2025, 100 years on, we see the truth. Tutankhamun's body wasn't studied. It was brutalized. His head removed, his limbs broken, his remains torn apart, and the damage buried behind silence. In the end, the real tragedy isn't what we discovered. It's what we were willing to destroy to get it. A moment when the pursuit of knowledge overshadowed respect for the dead. Every generation since 1922 has projected its own questions on Tut. Scientific, spiritual, philosophical. In this single boy king, we find immortality, vulnerability, beauty, and enigma woven together. History is full of unanswered questions, and this channel is where we search for the answers. If you want more stories of lost civilizations, hidden tombs, and ancient mysteries, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell. Thanks for staying with us until the end. If you enjoyed the video, please like and share it with others who love history. And tell us in the comments, if another undiscovered tomb still lies beneath Egypt's sands, whose do you believe it is, and why? And another question, do you think the curse of the pharaohs is pure myth, or could there be psychological, environmental, or even cultural truth behind it? We're excited to read your theories. See you in the next video.